don't see enough of that. And I think as a result, SBA has just issued, or will be soon issuing, an RFP for organizations to put together to help. They'll be applying for a grant, and that grant will be put in place. You saw that? Yeah, that grant, I thought very interesting. That grant will be put in place so that those organizations can help small businesses team with one another. That's how much of an advantage that it is, that the government is spending money to make that happen. So there are strategic advantages, particularly if you're working with large companies, and I always say, don't just allow the tail to wag the dog. You be in control. I beat that horse, but I will say it over and over and over again. So why do you have a certification? If I were to ask you, oh, you're a woman-owned small business, what made you decide to get that certification? If I were to ask you, are you a service-able veteran-owned small business, what is it that made you decide to get that certification in the first place? What were you looking for? Well, opportunities to do business in the government. Well, what do you think was required of you? If you're going to receive a certification, what's required of you? And that's why so many of us, I've seen so many of you at so many conferences, we're trying to, in workshops, we're trying to figure it out. That's why SBA is here, because apparently the folks in this area have a great relationship with SBA, and you guys are kind of walking lockstep through all these processes. It's a strategic market advantage for you to be able to have a set-aside or sole source contract. That's depending on if you're 109-461 under the Veterans Administration. If you're a service-able veteran-owned small business, that has a sole source component. If you're an 8A company, it has a sole source component across all agencies. If you're a woman-owned small business, you got the set-aside, you don't have the sole source. Please go to the next one. Return on investment, incremental increase in market share, strategic market advantage. These are the three things I talk about when I work with large business. And they say, why should we do business with small business? Small business, Mr. Large Company or Mrs. Large Company, provides you with a solid return on your investment. Because any opportunities that you afford to them, if you provide them with space, if you provide them with learning, teaching materials, then you get a return on that investment from helping a small business. What is your return on that investment? You have an opportunity to work with them legally as a subcontractor on government procurement, and it becomes a set-aside. Under 48 CFR 9.6, 48 CFR 9.6, which talks about teaming, it'll show you the prime-sub relationship. So, large business asks me, okay, give me some more. Why should we do business with small business? Now, I can tell you, the answer isn't that, well, the government makes us. Or, you know, the government has these subcontracting rules that may have been in a long time ago, and it sounds good in front of the cameras. The large company says, oh, you know, we want to do the right thing. We want to do the right thing. We want to do business with small business because it's the right thing to do. We want to do business with 8A firms because it's the right thing to do. We want to do business with women-owned small businesses because it's the right thing to do. Let's think about that for a minute. Most large companies are publicly held, and they have an obligation to their shareholders. And what does that obligation look like? They have to be able to declare a dividend, right? So it becomes a business-to-business kind of a relationship. So that large company, they can't say, well, you know, I did business, I did my fair share with service-able veteran-owned small businesses, but you know, I can't declare a dividend because we didn't meet our goals and objectives as it relates to return on investment. That's not going to happen. So we have to be able to position ourselves with large companies to show them how we can help them increase their market share, not only in the public market, but even in the diversity market by working with us. And I have a separate presentation that talks about that. Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell us again what those three things that you always preach about that we should know as small businesses when we're approaching large businesses again?
Return on investment. What is their return in doing business with you or affording you opportunities or providing you with money? What's the return on their investment? What do they get for that? They can also experience an incremental increase in market share. So if a large company has just been participating in full and open competition, or if we know, you know, Veterans First with the VA, and that company would like to do business with the VA, and you're a qualified firm, and they can team with you, particularly with the VA's new mentor protege program, and they can team with you, and if you are a legitimate firm, if you recognize that you're providing, that the privity is with you, and you are actually doing work, I like to say hammer in hand, you are doing work, then you guys can team to go after that business. That would help them get an incremental increase in market share. In particular, because of the recession, many large companies are coming to the federal government because they're saying, you know what, the market's kind of shaky. on the commercial side of the house. The government has money. They have all that stimulus money. We now want to learn how to do business with the federal government. So now they're increasing their market share even more because maybe they weren't in the government before. Great opportunity for you. And you represent to them a strategic market advantage. A strategic market advantage. What is that? You're a small business. They can team with you. So as that strategic market advantage, again, there are opportunities that they would not have if they were not working with you. I have large companies that have been able to record $50 million, $150 million worth of dollars into their corporation because of their teaming with companies like yours. And let me tell you something. When the dollars get that high, what do I tell you? They don't care what color you are. They don't even care how old I am. They don't care how much I weigh.
Okay.
They don't care what gender I am. They can care less. Because I'm helping them and you're helping them meet their objectives, their obligation to their shareholders. And you're able to participate in their growth. And that's really the position from which we want to work. Yes, Charmaine?
How do we find out about these large businesses that want to do business with small businesses?
You know, Charmaine, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Because if you go into the conventions or the seminars or whatever, you have the large businesses there to say, okay, yeah, we want to, but after the convention or whatever you attend, it's like, you know, okay, we just said that because we were there.
Okay, so you guys, those of you who know Charmaine knows she's very real. Charmaine just asked the question, well, how do we find these large companies that really want to do business with us? As you know, Beverly, we go to the conventions and the conferences, and everybody's smiling and they're shaking hands. Can I paraphrase a little bit? And they're shaking hands, but at the end of it, can't even get a call back. So how do we find these companies? Well, one thing is that we need to change the nature of our conversation. And that, what I just told you, that the subcontracting, the compliance piece, that says, because that's what they're expecting at government conferences, right? They're expecting to hear the compliance story. And the compliance story is, you must meet your subcontracting goals. And all of us know that, you know, there's a lot of agencies that are understaffed. So how are we going to make sure and mandate that companies meet their subcontracting goals? So what we have to do is kind of shift that paradigm a little bit, and we need to change the nature of our conversation with large companies. Change the nature of it. It's not about us being subcontractors to them. If that's what you want to do, and if there's, you know, we can always change our portfolio and make sure that we can do both of them. But I like prime work for small businesses. So a lot of times, the agencies say, well, you know, it's too big, you guys are too big. Okay, you guys aren't, the requirement is too large, and small businesses aren't big enough. But if we teamed, we could do it. If we could form teams, and I know everybody's an entrepreneur, we all have type A personalities, but at some point, we're going to take a deep breath and say, how can we work together so that we can manage a large requirement? We have got to do that. If we don't, we're leaving a lot of stuff on the table for people that are not service-able veterans, or who are not AA, or who are not women-owned small businesses. We've got to team. So the answer to Charmaine's question is that we have got to change. We've got to be in control of our own destiny. And the way for us to be controlled is to understand that conversation. Return on investment, incremental increase in market share, strategic market advantage. If you ever notice, when you talk to a large company, you notice how sometimes the representative's eyes kind of roll back in the back of their head, and they're looking past you and looking for the next person and not paying attention? It's because we're saying the same thing. Well, you know, you have to do business with us. Well, I'm a veteran. No. How can you help that corporation meet its goals? How can you help that corporation understand that if they work with you, they'll get a solid return on their investment? How can we make that corporation understand that by working with us, we help them realize a strategic market advantage and can get them an incremental increase in market share? That's the conversation. See, I used to think I just wasn't cute enough. That's why they weren't paying attention. I thought, well, you know, I am getting about that age. Okay, I can do it. But when I changed the tone of my conversation and the nature of my conversation, it made all the difference in the world. All of a sudden, people started paying attention. It's because I was helping them get what they wanted by telling them this is what I had. Almost like dating. Remember that, ladies? Almost like dating. Right? Almost like that. That's your wife over there. Amen. So almost like dating, right? Okay, so quick. I remember seeing a movie a long time ago. I'll be done in a minute. Oh, we're done? Should I stop? It was a movie with Marilyn Monroe. And Marilyn was dating a man for his money. A young man. She was dating him for his money. So the father intervened. And the father said, well, I think you're just dating me dating my son for his money. And she stepped back and she said, well, I think he's just dating me for my assets as well. Right?
Okay.
So there got to be an understanding. So it's the same thing with small business and large business. We each have assets to bring to the table that will enable us to serve our customer a lot better and provide quality goods and services, and we can take full advantage of it. Now, Charmaine, I'm just not Charmaine, Valerie, I can stop you, right? Because I want to make sure. This is a 48-page PowerPoint. I do a lot of training. This will be left with the organization, and Valerie will have access to it. She knows how to find me. We've been talking on late nights. There's a lot of other information. You have the presentation. I'm going to leave the SBA guidelines here, but you have even better. You have Mr. Quinn sitting right there. And Mr. Jordan sitting right over there. I'm going to stop right here in the interest of time. I want to thank you very much for your time and attention, and thank you for your indulgence. Thanks very much.
You guys, let's just thank Ms. Kuykendall once again for all that information. She's going to be here to network with us afterwards and ask questions. You guys can ask questions, and I wanted to open it up to a question and answer forum before we introduce Paul Chan. Let me just point out some of the things that I thought, was, could you pass me, Sharon, that yellow binder? If you guys would look in your presentation, there's a lot of good information on here that Beverly shares with us on how to, who to approach, how to approach them. She's available to work with small businesses. She left her contact information, at the end of the PowerPoint presentation. And I just want to recap 3 things that I thought was really good, and I want us to make sure that we take this particular 3 points home, and then I'll open it up for questions. And again, she came back and she said that to change, the conversation that we're having, so we all will talk about that 95-507, and maximum practical utilization with the SBA PCR when he comes up. But for now, there's a different approach that we can take. And she said that the conversation needs to be different than how are you meeting your subcontractor goals. And one of the things that I thought was most helpful to me, and that's why I thought it was pertinent for us to share her knowledge and experience with the rest of you guys, was that she told me, Val, there's 3 things that the large businesses want. And she shared them with you guys, and I just want to make sure that you guys